call the roll.
Winters,
Here.
Eckhart, Sherman,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Wallace,
Here.
Stelling,
Here.
Hamilton, Hannaford.
Here.
Item 4 is a vote to receive the official election returns for the general election held April 6, 2021 for Trent Goss, City Treasurer, Daniel Winters, Ward 1, Seat 1, Taylor Dowling, Ward 2, Seat 1, Troy Brooks, Ward 3, Seat 1, Greg Bowman, Ward 4, Seat 1. Entertain a motion.
I'll motion to receive the official election returns from the general election held April 6, 2021.
Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Winters, a second from Mr. Wallace to receive the official election returns for April 6, 2021. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Number 5 is a swearing-in ceremony for Trent Goss, City Treasurer, Daniel Winters, Ward 1, Seat 1, Taylor Dowling, Ward 2, Seat 1, Troy Brooks, Ward 3, Seat 1, and Greg Bowman, Ward 4, Seat 1. You're on.
If each of you will step forward, please. If you would raise your right hand. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma, and that you will not knowingly receive, directly or indirectly, any money or other valuable thing for the performance or non-performance of any act or duty pertaining to your office other than the compensation allowed by law? And do you further swear or affirm you will faithfully discharge your duties for which you have been elected to the best of your ability? If you have, very good. Congratulations, gentlemen.
All right. So, Bo, Brian, thank you for your service to our council, and we'll have the new people take their places.
Oh, here's.
And welcome to Greg and Troy, Taylor, and we will get on to the rest of the business. Next item is discussion and action to elect a council president for the city of Alva. The council president position is one that serves in the absence of the mayor and retains a seat as a regular sitting council member at the same time during that absence. Historically, we've always elected that person at this meeting, and so you guys amongst yourselves can have that discussion and make motion to elect a council president.
Motion to elect Randy Stelling.
I was going to say, if we have a moment for discussion, I was going to proffer, I guess, a few ideas if the board wanted to consider them for discussion. I was going to say, I think it is important, especially with this election above all others and at this moment, because of the perception a lot of the public has of this councilman, wrongly or rightfully, I think it is important that as a committee we restore the trust that the citizen has in this. And I think the easiest one way to do that is to elect somebody who is not here when the previous business manager existed. The other thing that I think is important to consider for this position is, in that vein, I think that it should be a new position for the city councilman president, if that's the correct title.
Council president.
Council president, for him to help attend the events that are publicly sponsored and that the money that we donate to these different charitable events goes to. I think that they should make a special effort above all others on part of this council to attend those so that they can show and speak to what we do with the community. That's why I think in that regard, I suggest that we nominate Greg Bowman. He is a new face and somebody whose opinion, and I think he relates well to the public.
I'd say with the experience and ability to lead the meetings and the longevity, Randy being the longest serving member on the council currently, I would like to second Councilman Sherman's motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I guess, were those kind of the same points that led you to originally nominate Randy
Yes.
for the discussion? All right. I assume that that's something that you would be interested into and serving in that capacity since I...
Yep.
All right, well, I hope to see what those things.
Any further discussion? Okay, please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Stelling,
No.
Martin,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Brooks.
No.
Okay, motion carries. Next item is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items, which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at city council meetings, will be approved by one vote of the council. Any member of the council desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on March 15, 2021. Item B, approval of claims in the amount of $173,881.96 and payroll expenses of $198,243.31. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Stelling, a second by Mrs. Hamilton to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Stelling,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Stelling, Sherman.
Yes.
All right. Next item is item 9, reports from staff. Item A is the Alva Hospital Authority meeting on 3/23/2021. I don't know if we have that report with us. Dr. Hannaford would have.
No, I didn't have the information.
Okay, we'll.
I know he did talk to me about the fact that we had 2 new physicians coming to town, and that was, I think, the main focal point of that meeting.
Item B is the Alva Arena Authority meeting on 4/6/2021. You can see the agenda from their April 6th meeting.
Did not have the minutes to me yet. But
Okay.
I know they had some executive session to discuss some things on the financing side of the Arena Authority, and that was, I know there was some other discussion items there, but that was, I think, the bulk of their meeting was executive session.
Okay. Item C is the Alva Tourism Tax Commission special meeting on April 7th. Mr. Martin?
We approved 3 previous months' financials. There was a paperwork error, which caused us to approve those repeatedly. There was also, we entered into executive session. There was no action taken due to that. Anything else? I'd be glad to answer any questions.
What do you mean specifically about the accounting, the error that caused it to be done twice?
So the accounting software,
I'll just talk a little bit about that,
Yeah.
Connor. So there was questions on a CD that was on one of the financial statements. One of the CDs had been reinvested, and instead of zeroing out the old CD and adding the new CD to the financial statements, the old CD was just zeroed out, and the new CD was neglected to be put on those financial statements. And so there was a few other questions onto the financial statements that were discussed.
Okay, and so there was, okay. What was the time period between the lapse and then the renewal of that CD?
There was no, I mean, it was renewed.
Okay, so it's just instantly renewed?
Yes.
It's just the new account number that it was done with
Yes.
was that? Okay, and it's typical to get new account numbers on the renewing of a CD like that?
If it changes banks, yes. Or
Okay,
we would
and this
change the
one did?
terms, yes.
Okay. And I guess what bank did that change to, just out of curiosity?
I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to go back and look at that.
From
Taylor.
what bank?
I don't know.
Neither, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I apologize.
No, thanks.
I would have to go back and research that, but I can send you an email on my email.
Does council have any other questions for Mr. Martin? Thank you. Next item is the Public Library Board special meeting on April 12th, 2021. The minutes of that meeting are attached to the packet electronically. I hope everybody had a chance to go through those. Angelica, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I apologize. No, I don't have anything else to add on that one.
Okay. Next item is the Alva Regional Airport Commission meeting on 4/12. This was a routine meeting with no action items other than the approval of previous minutes. We did, at that time, make plans to have a budget meeting with commission, 2 members from the commission and the airport manager and the business manager. That meeting occurred this morning. And I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the airport meeting.
Are you allowed to talk about that meeting they had with the business manager that happened this morning?
We reviewed the budget for next year and what recommendations that we were anticipating sending to City Council for approval. We looked at keeping the budget flat, pretty much, with consideration to be given for Personnel Committee recommendations for employee wages, as well as pending health insurance premiums that we're waiting to find out what those are going to be for the next year. And we talked about the potential for having a budget for a GPU and an APU to have on, one or the other to have on the field for ground power or alternative power for aircraft, as well as an ice machine for the terminal and a jump start, battery system as well. So those were the items discussed this morning. Is there any further questions? All right, next item is the Finance Committee meeting on 4/19/2021. Mr. Sherman?
We discussed the claims. Some of the large claims were paid the monthly fee for the petition audit, $5,093.75. Airport fund for the airport fuel of $18,000. And then our normal debt servicing and bulk fuel for the city. And the red carpet landfill transfer. We discussed the fire hydrant infrastructure at the high school and the funding for that going forward. Talking about possibly splitting some of that cost with the high schools. There's a fire hydrant that's required for them to go into their new facility up there. 2 fire hydrants. And then discussed possibility of some long-term debt payoff. And then reviewed the Suddenlink franchise renewal.
Are there any questions for Mr. Sherman?
Specifically, what was discussed on the franchise renewal?
We just looked over it. I mean, it's part of the Finance Committee agreement. We changed line 2. I can talk about it in a minute. We changed line 2 of section 3.5 that talks about the citizen possibly being on the hook for limb removal and things like that. We just took the line completely out. So I will say it was really nice to work with a company who was willing to change the franchise agreement at the table instead of going back to lawyers for months. So, any questions on it?
I guess only specifically, did you guys discuss the cost? Is any difference between this one and the previous one?
No.
No discussion on the cost difference?
No difference.
Are there any other questions regarding Finance Committee meeting? Okay. Next item is the City Mayor's report. I wanted to touch on a few things. Last week, Economic Development Committee for Woods County welcomed the Lieutenant Governor's turkey hunt to town. I'd say for having missed a year, it was good to have that event back in our community, and we had representatives from different entities from all across the United States and even other parts of the world here to look at Alva and Woods County for possible location for operating either some or all of their business. I have had conversations with a couple business owners who are looking to expand within our community, and with such they've brought to my attention some building code issues that I would like to, and Fire Chief Miller has brought some of those attention to the council in the past, and I would like to go ahead and assign a review of our building code to the Planning Commission so that we are making sure that well, our community is safe, but also that it's business friendly. I have been working with Northwest Tech to schedule a council retreat, and at that, I've asked them to provide training and education on effective communication in an open meeting, open record environment, as well as unity despite diversity of opinions. And so they are able to accommodate us on any Saturday in the near future. So if council members will get with Angelica after the meeting at some point to let us know your availability so we can get that scheduled. And they will be bringing in a trainer to provide that, so just need a little bit of notice to be able to get that scheduled. But Darren Slater, the superintendent out there, did indicate that the availability is pretty wide open. So the Chamber of Commerce Gala is May 5th, and I would anticipate that some of you are going to be there. And I have agreed to MC that event again this year. During the turkey hunt, we did have the guest that was assigned to me for the event was Daniel McClure. He's with the Oklahoma Municipal League, and he's brought to our attention some possible opportunities for us in dealing with dilapidated structures. It may mean that we need to look at some of our existing code of ordinances to see what changes we might need to make, but there may be some easier ways for us to deal with that nuisance in our community. And so I think we'll go ahead and also probably put that on the plate of the Planning Commission and possibly our Ordinance Review Committee to see what steps we can take with that. I attended the open house for Sundance. They're the company that's working with the windmills in the southern part of the county. I will bring, I also had some conversations that I think I want to move on to the Parks and Buildings Committee regarding the addition of disc golf to our community. There's a gentleman with ties to Alva that is a professional disc golfer and is willing to offer up his expertise and assistance to help us bring disc golf to Alva. So I'll assign that to the Parks and Buildings Committee for review and possible recommendation to council. Some of you know that I serve on the Municipal League Board of Directors. We have been meeting virtually because of the pandemic, but beginning in May, those meetings will begin being in person. One of the things that this time of year that the Municipal League focuses a lot on is state legislation, and there have been a number of items at the state legislature for consideration that would preempt our local control over a variety of things. One of those issues was with regard to Senate Bill 939, which in its original format would have not allowed towns and cities to enforce nuisance ordinances, local nuisance ordinances upon entities within the communities. And so that bill has been amended that municipalities will retain the ability to enforce municipal nuisance ordinances. If it were to pass, it would not hurt us. So, I have asked Angelica to forward the OML, I think it's called The Advocate is the name of the publication, but it lists all of the legislation that the OML is following on behalf of all the towns and cities of Oklahoma, and you can kind of look in there and see what's being supported, what's being opposed, and that sort of thing. I'm happy to answer any questions. All right. Next item is the city business manager's report.
Right, let's see here. I asked Chief Orcutt if he would speak about the grant that the police department has received from OMAGS. He's here, he can speak on that a little bit.
So, Assistant Chief Patrick Hawley applied for a grant with OMAG here several months ago. The body-worn cameras that we currently have are several years old, and they're kind of at the end of their time. We're having some problems with the video staying powered up and the sound being accurate. So we applied for a grant. We received a $10,000 grant, which will cover the cost of 10 body-worn cameras for the officers. We think there's around $400 or $500 that the city will have to pay. So we got accepted for that. So.
And I did want to point out, so the last time we did get body cams, those were also done through a grant. So we never had to purchase those outright for our city today. So I think that's awesome that the police department's been able to apply for those grants and receive those regularly. I wanted to talk about, Mayor Parker talked about having Northwest Tech do some training for us on the council level, but I worked with my department head staff members and was able to do some training with them at Northwest Tech. We did True Colors training there. I was really pleased. I had a great time. I don't know that they had as much fun as I did, but it was good to get together. We have also been talking with Northwest Tech about doing some some effective communication training as well. And so we're hoping to have a great partnership with them moving forward and do some things like that for our staff members. I really have enjoyed doing that. Hopefully we can continue that partnership. I wanted to remind everybody, I'm not sure, I know it will be in the newspaper this weekend, the pool task force is doing a pool open house to review the engineering report that was given to us and let the community come in and take a look. Brandon, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, there'll be a sign up at the pool that shows it, but it's the 29th, 30th, and 31st. I want to say 6 o'clock. Please don't hold me to that if it changes on the 29th. And then, okay, the 30th, I think it changes because that's Saturday.
Okay.
One of those is a Saturday, and it may change to more of an afternoon. But yeah, it's basically just going to be the ability to look through the report. I think there are reports on hand at the city office if anybody would like to get one beforehand to look it over. But we'll be there to tour the pool. You can actually look at the report and look at the spot that they're talking about in the report so you understand it. And it's just kind of informational in purpose to make sure that everybody understands kind of where we stand and where we want to go forward.
I have a handout for the newly elected officials. There is a training from OML that you all will need to attend. So I'll get with each of you, get you the agenda information and what that looks like, and help get you each signed up so that you can attend that. I do believe it is virtual. I will double check and get you all that information. I have it, so if you'll see me after the meeting. Our water department, I know we talked several months ago about some of our meter heads not working appropriately, and that we had been able to purchase some updated equipment for, we have purchased 365 new meter heads And that is, when I say meter head, that's the antenna that sends the information from the meter itself back to our equipment that does the meter reads each month. All 365 of those have been installed, so we were able to get that accomplished in just about 3 months, I believe. And so it's been great. I'm glad we're able to get that completed. We're gearing up. We've done some work in the well field, replaced some electrical boxes, and getting our water wells ready for our busy summer season. I think we are in the process of installing 10 new electrical boxes down there, and we've had to do some repairs to some equipment down in the well field as well. So,
Angelica, on the meter heads,
yeah.
is the billing working better than then?
Yes, so what we were doing before is those that weren't reading, we would have to go out and manually reread all of those, and so that has cut that down a little bit. So they're able to go back and work on some other reports as well.
Okay.
Has the failure rate stopped or leveled off or quit or?
We are still working with them on that. I've actually been in contact with Mueller Systems regarding some of those, and we have been sending them some reports, and I would like to discuss the ability to potentially purchase some more at the same. They gave us a very discounted rate, and I would like to discuss with them the ability to purchase some more at that same discount rate, because per our water department staff, we do have some more of those antennas that need to be replaced.
Just, when was that, when were they originally installed and how many have they lost since then?
So we began that project in 2015. I think it was completed in 2016. And how many have we lost? What do you mean?
Like, some of them go out or misread, and we have to go out and check?
They're not misreading, they're just not relaying the information back to our
Okay,
computer
and so
equipment.
when they fail, it's an individual, not a per
Yes,
item?
and so that's why
Okay.
we have been identifying more of those that's occurring with, and that's why we're working
Okay.
with our meter company to try to see if we can get some additional at that same discount rate.
Okay, and that's, I guess failing is they're just not reporting some people's bill once a month?
Well, so they're just not reporting, so the antenna is what sends the information from the meter to the equipment that picks up the meter read, and so it's just not relaying that information, and so we have to physically go open the meter box and read the
Okay, and
meter.
so that's the failure, is it's not physically reading anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Like that next one, I guess we have someone that drives normal route and it's to pick up the signal from the meters.
And I guess, what signal is that? Like, weekend format of an RFD signal that sends out from the local box? Like, do you guys know the signal standard with which it communicates?
I do not. I
Okay,
can look,
and
I
that's
could look
what-
at our specifications and find that out. The final thing I had to talk about is we did have our pre-construction conference with the company that we've contracted with to lay the water line south of town to the well field. We anticipate that project beginning on May 17th. They have 90 days to complete that project. I think they did expect it, obviously weather permitting, to go a little bit more quickly than that, but I'll keep you up to date on that project as we move forward. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Council have any questions? Thank you, Angelica. Next item, number 10, is remarks and inquiries by citizens. If there's anyone in the audience that would care to make a public comment to the council, you will be limited to 2 minutes, and we would ask that you approach the podium and please state your name before doing so. All right, well, we're glad you're all here anyway. Next item is discussion and action on the mayor committee appointments for the finance.
No action.
Okay.
Discussion on, discussion on the mayor's committee appointments for the finance committee, ordinance review committee, personnel committee, parks and buildings committee, public safety committee, sanitation committee, street and alley committee, water and sewer committee, and economic development committee. These are committees that we establish to help us review operations and projects that the business manager is carrying out with staff. In these committees, we provide guidance to the business manager, and also when the business manager has items that need potential city council consideration, These committees will review those items and then make recommendation to the council, whether or not they are to go to the council for consideration, and then if they have a recommendation, what that recommendation might be. The assignments you have in front of you, just handed out, there was an error that was corrected. So what was handed out at the meeting is accurate. The Finance Committee would be Brandon Sherman, Connor Martin, Daniel Winters. The Ordinance Review Committee would be Randy Stelling, Troy Brooks, and Daniel Winters. The Personnel Committee would be Daniel Winters, Mary Hamilton, Connor Martin. Parks and Building Committee, Brandon Sherman, Mary Hamilton, and Greg Bowman. The Public Safety Committee, Mary Hamilton, Brandon Sherman, Taylor Dowling. Sanitation Committee, Randy Stelling, Troy Brooks, and Greg Bowman. The Street and Alley Committee, Kelly Parker, Randy Stelling, and Greg Bowman. The Water and Sewer Committee, Randy Stelling, Daniel Winters, and Troy Brooks. And the Economic Development Committee, Connor Martin, Taylor Dowling, and Mary Hamilton. This gives everybody about 3 or 4 committees to serve on to help us divide up the work of the council. And the plan is to have monthly meetings of each of these committees during which you'll help us decide what things need to get, like I said, help us decide which things need to go to council, help us in an advisory capacity to Angelica, and those are the committee assignments. And no action is necessary on that, but we do have this on the agenda for discussion.
I guess, do you mind going into each committee and kind of explaining the grouping that you chose? Or is it just experience that you know them and what, I guess?
My prioritization were that the Finance Committee and the Personnel Committee be continuing council members. Those committees are going to be the highest involved in the completion of this year's budget, and having their work will not take as much to bring them up to speed on what the issues are facing both those committees with regard to personnel and finance.
Would you be open, I guess, for those 2 committees to consider a new councilman? Same reason I pointed out earlier, the point of transparency and the hopefully involving more community and kind of getting somebody in there who has not suffered through former business.
I would like to leave these recommendations the same.
Okay.
The Ordinance Review Committee was 2 of the continuing people that were on that committee. In fact, all these committees, if somebody was presently serving on one of them and desired to do so, I allowed them to do that. If they didn't have a preference, I did choose to, in some instances, change out positions. I did hear from some council members that may not have, that the original draft of proposed committee assignments may not have put them in the best place, in my opinion, so I did make some changes based on those conversations, and that's how the rest of them fell.
If a councilman was interested in attending these, not as an advisor, but just as to be there, is that possible or not?
Once we get up to 4 council members, we run the risk of having a quorum that would constitute a meeting of the council, and we wouldn't want to be in a position to where the committee is making action that the council should be making.
Then I guess if I was to watch remotely through a video feed similar to this, would that be something that could be arranged for those committee meetings?
Rick, do you know about video feeds?
If you're not a member, if you don't have more than 5, then you don't have a quorum. So it takes 5 to have a quorum. So as long as you stay under 4 or less, then you're fine. If a 5th member shows up, if you come personally and a 5th member shows up, then you're in violation of the Open Meeting Act, so it's a penalty. So someone would have to leave.
Okay, but not necessarily any issues, just broadcasting it online.
That would be up to the committees. Normally, committees do not do that because they
If we
need
were-
to be able to share information.
That's more than a private, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
If we were going to do that, we would just have a council discussion and action on the item.
okay, so not necessarily something. All right, just curious.
So those are the committee assignments. Angelica will be getting with all of you to schedule the committee meetings. Item 12 is discussion on a franchise agreement renewal with Seabridge Acquisitions LP, doing business as Suddenlink Communications. With us today to present on behalf of Suddenlink is Johnny Moyer. Did I get that right? Okay. And so, Johnny, I'll let you have the opening remarks to the council.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. My name is Johnny Moyer, Government Affairs Director for All TCUSA, parent company of Suddenlink. Had a great meeting with the Finance Committee earlier, just go over some of the details of the franchise renewal. Most of the language, if not all, is practically the same from the previous agreement. It is a 10-year agreement with the same franchise fees that are paid quarterly to the city. I took questions. There was one minor change that we took, changed in section 3.5 that Mr. Sherman asked. We went ahead and deleted that language out of there. But I'm here to answer questions and see if there's anything that I can do for you. As many of you know, last year we made a heavy investment here in Alva. We upgraded our internet speeds up to 1 gig. Now this franchise renewal is for cable, so that's all our video subscribers, and that's where the franchise fees come from. But we do also offer phone and broadband. So we made a big investment on the upgrade last year. As I was telling the Finance Committee as well, we've had 2 major changes within the company. We hired 450 plus call center agents within the last 6 months and training them now in hopes of bringing our call center times down and investing in digital platforms and apps for younger people to use as well to connect with customer care. And then the second major change that was just actually came about 2 months ago was for our field service and our construction teams. Previously, they were under their own branch of the company with their own leadership off to the side. We had a lot of problems from that. We had a lot of missed appointments, techs not showing up for work, and we saw this as a big downfall for the company. So we brought them back under Suddenlink with their own leadership of field services. So mainly bringing back that accountability and transparency for all our field tech and construction teams. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
I did have a couple in regards to section 4.3, conditions of sale. How that reads, or how I interpret it, and Counselor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if it states that if the franchise is denied or lawfully terminated, and in some way about that we would acquire ownership or affect the transfer of ownership, that the acquisition or transfer should be at fair market value. And it seems to me that that's stating that if, for instance, the agreement was breached, there's the possibility of the city coming under requirement to acquire that infrastructure, which is valued considerably, I'm sure. So, can either of you speak to that? Is that?
I'll let him direct. I haven't
Yeah.
read, I haven't seen all.
That's
Time
pretty
to
standard
review.
for all franchises throughout, not just with our company, but for a lot of cable plants across the country. I know the FCC has different rules moving in from there, but that's pretty standard across the board.
I think the only thing I would ask is that in the event that the termination is due to breach of agreement, that the city is not liable for that infrastructure.
I can get an answer for you, and I'll share that with Ms. Brady.
Okay.
Are there any way that we could get any agreement of availability of service, like uptime or anything like that, some standard of uptime availability, or even specifying the amount of load that you can have per, I'm trying to think of the correct term, how often they allocate it per user, so that we cannot have, so that if we have, how much bandwidth do you currently provide?
This is
The-
for bandwidth, this
Sorry.
is for,
Yes.
The connection, I guess.
this is for cable.
And the FCC actually violates us from addressing their cable internet service.
Okay, so not allowed to do that. So this is just for the lines in and stuff like that?
Yes.
I had someone asking, the current bill, it shows a franchise fee on it at this time.
Yep.
If there's no franchise, how come what's that fee for?
Well, pretty much the way the FCC works out with these franchises, they are extended even if they have lapsed, in this case, here. So, but the franchise fee does keep on moving forward until, we've been acting in good faith with the city on a renewal.
We have been continuing to receive the franchise agreement.
So we pay franchise fees and we also continue to pay on the pole attachments.
Are you gonna consider putting a person in the office again to take payments and help customers, or is that?
So there is no plan to have an office reopened.
And that 2% franchise fee, that is collected on behalf of you and paid to the city, right? 2%? Okay, that's what I thought.
Is there any discussion about, not necessarily the phone, but the office? Because I was over in the office one time and they were talking about a certain internet TV box that required that type of system to operate here, and Alva didn't have that, so.
How long ago was that? Because that's probably changed with the new upgrade to up to 1 gig for the internet speeds. There are certain boxes that have to be exchanged for that. I tried to get the information on what the previous speed was, but it probably could be 150. So a lot of times when we do such a large increase in speeds, we'll offer up to 200, 400, and then up to the 1 gig.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times if you do move up, we also ask for the exchange of equipment. Just depends on the system as well.
So I think I was talking about the TV channels and stuff, trying to switch or something, and they were saying, which I think it's been at least 2 months or something, but they said that once they, like I said, the officer and Enid, they got to look at, they said that we weren't actually capable of having that type of service or
It
something.
could just depend on the market, yeah. So for you, I mean, here in Alva, you have the best of lineup services. I mean, you're going to get the fastest speed. You get the same offerings as, say, a provider in Oklahoma City or Tulsa.
Yeah.
So, and as for the store in Enid, that's been reopened for several months now.
Okay.
I guess you mentioned earlier how there is no current arrangement to have an office here. Is that possible? Is that something that other people do with their franchise agreements, is require you to have services here or an office here? to address customer concern?
It's just on a case-by-case basis. I mean, a lot
So
of
it's
times.
been done before?
It's not been changed before, so what I'm saying is that we closed 40 stores due to COVID. Some of those have reopened, and some of those we've actually made a business decision not to
And
reopen.
I don't think ours was closed based off that decision. I think it was closed years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the other thing I was going to ask is 3.8, the required extension services. I think it is, from my understanding, a large part of this is so that we can provide better internet connections, specifically a physical connection to businesses in town. Can you discuss where that, what does it call it?
Are you talking about in section 3.9, that it's within 150 feet the distance?
From at least 15 subscribers. No, the ability to push the cost of extending the service to a business off on you, the grantee, instead of the city, if we have 15 subscribers within 1,320 cable-bearing standard feet of the trunk. So where is the trunk coming into the city of Alva, and what businesses can take advantage of that? And is there a way that you could show me a graph or information on that
I can get
specifically?
a map of where our,
The main trunk coming?
just like the footprint of where we serve within the city.
Yeah, I guess just specifically so I can determine what falls under that allowance.
Okay.
I did have one additional question I wanted to ask on section 7.3, dealing with the public hearing in the event that says in the event that the grantee fails to respond to the notice described in section 7.1, according to 7.2, or in the event that the alleged default is not remedied within 120 days after the grantee is notified, that there should be a public hearing held to investigate the default, and that public hearing has to be held at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the franchising authority, and that meeting can be no fewer than 5 days. Okay, I'm sorry, I misread that. No fewer, not no more. I'm good. Just needed to read it again.
And I'll just say, the city does not have or will receive any funds from a pole rental fee. Section 310, the pole attachments, utility poles owned by the franchise authority. We don't own any utility poles.
We don't
No,
own
no.
utility poles.
Out of curiosity, are those paid to OG&E then, or is there, are they?
So depending on who owns the pole, we pay to pretty much rent that space on it.
It's just how much do you pay? Do you know how much you pay generally per pole? Or
It varies by market.
like, I think $10 or no idea?
It can be, and like
Oh,
the
just
average
any
is
pole.
up over 20 in some
Okay,
cases.
that's what.
So,
I know, so.
and that's per pole. So for some communities, it could be 20,000, some communities are up over 150,000 a year just in pole attachment fees.
Are there any other questions from the council? Johnny, I appreciate you coming in to explain all this and look forward to the answers that you have to send back to Angelica.
I guess my question would be is if I can get the answers for the councilmen who do have their questions, is it to be approved or say discussed at the next hearing, you think, the next council meeting?
We would look at the information that you get and see if we need to have it on the agenda as an action item. Yes.
Ms. Brady does have my contact information, so it's in there. So if you do want to reach out personally and have any other questions, she's got my phone number, email, I'll be happy to do that for you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Item 13 on the agenda is discussion and action to acknowledge the receipt of DEQ permit number WL 000076210163 for the construction of 6,500 linear feet of 16-inch PVC potable water line and all appurtenances, love the big words, to serve the south of U.S. Highway 281 water line replacement, Woods County, Oklahoma. This is the last part of our Series 2018 revenue bonds that we've been using that were designated specifically for water and sewer infrastructure projects. This was part of the original proposal. We have had the ability to use funds from that bond issue outside of the original proposal, but we do have an obligation to complete everything that was in the original proposal, and this project would do that. As Angelica mentioned, this is pre-construction meeting has been scheduled, and I don't know if she mentioned it or not, but from the start to finish, it's scheduled for 90 days. And this DEQ permit approval is a requirement in order to have the line become operational upon installation. Anything to add on that?
No, I think you did a great job.
Randy, you got anything on that? Is that all right?
Sounds good.
I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve acknowledgement receipt of DEQ permit as stated in the agenda.
Second, first.
The glory of being a councilman and not the mayor.
Yeah. I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, second by Mr. Winters to acknowledge the receipt of the DEQ permit for the 6,500 linear feet of 16-inch water line. Item 13 in the agenda. Is there any further discussion?
I've got a question on the water line. Was it deemed that that water line was good? Because during the election, everybody talked about it was discolored. And, I mean, did the engineer say, yes, this water line is fine?
Yeah, and we can get out to all the new council members, and maybe all the council members, I don't know if everybody's seen it or not, but there is an email from the engineering firm that has basically stated that it is just discoloration at this time, but it is time to get the pipe in the ground. And you'll forward that to everybody?
I'll forward that to everyone tomorrow.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Randy Stelling.
Yes. Special.
I understand that, but everybody's the middle name. All right, item 14 is discussion and action to authorize the mayor to sign the firefighter property release to accept ownership of a 1996 Stewart Stevenson M1078 cargo truck with VIN number AT3714BCHE for use on the Alva Fire Department. Angelica, you have more details on that?
I do. So this truck came to us from the Oklahoma Department of Forestry. Our fire department, Chief Miller worked with the Woods County Commissioners to outfit this truck according to the forestry regulations. And once we accept responsibility for the truck, we are responsible for tagging and titling that vehicle, and then Woods County is responsible for maintenance and upkeep of that piece of equipment. We just have to house it indoors.
Do we have a formal agreement in place as such?
I think that's in my,
That would be
I believe that's what
what I'm supposed to
what
sign.
Kelly is signing is, I
Okay.
think it's.
I didn't see that on the transfer release that it stated that, but I could have just overlooked it. So what's the intended use of the truck? What's its purpose?
So it is,
Brush rig.
it is a brush rig, yes, I was gonna say, it's a brush rig, and so that's why the county's involved with it. It helps for fire mitigation out in the county, as well as, we would need it in the city, but typically that apparatus is more commonly used on county fires out in the county. This is something that all fire departments have access to this equipment, and I think they have to apply for it, and so I know this is not uncommon for us to receive this equipment. I think this is the first time we've ever brought this through city council action for the mayor to approve, but we just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that it was.
We have received vehicles, but like I say, it's the
Yes.
first time we've
Put it on the.
seen
council.
this actual item on here and everything, but there's several vehicles we have received like that.
So is it a second brush rig then, or is it replacing the other brush rig?
So we still have our brush rig. I think this is a bigger, I think this is a tanker actually, Mayor Parker.
Is it a tanker?
It is it's a bigger piece of equipment. It was the one that was sitting outside, out front here for
Well,
quite a while.
Yeah, it would be.
I was gonna say, and so we still have our brush rig that the county purchased for us, but this is an additional piece of equipment that we didn't currently have.
So it's a brush rig or?
It is a tanker.
It's a tanker.
Yeah, like I said, smaller, green one that had the smaller tank on her stuff. It's a lot more water capacity than it, I think it's a lot easier too to travel in some of the terrain that they go on.
I'd make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the firefighter property release to accept the ownership of the 1996 Stewart Stevenson's M1078 cargo truck as stated.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Winters with a second by Mrs. Hamilton to authorize the mayor to sign the firefighter property release to accept ownership of a 1996 Stewart Stevenson M1078 cargo truck. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Dowling.
Yes.
Item 15 is the discussion and action on the appointment of Mr. Greg Bowman to the Alva Hospital Authority Board. City Council has a position on the Alva Hospital Authority Board. It is a 7-member board comprised of 5 citizens, 1 city council member, and the chief of staff for the medical center. I have that position was previously held by Dr. Hannaford, and So with him going off the council, we need to appoint a replacement. And so I am recommending council appoint Greg Bowman to that position.
Make a motion to appoint Greg Bowman to the Alva Hospital Authority Board.
Second.
Have a motion by Mrs. Hamilton, a second by Mr. Stelling to appoint Greg Bowman to the Alva Hospital Authority Board. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Item 16 is discussion and action on the appointment of Mr. Chris Eckhart to the Alva Library Board of Directors. There was a position, a vacant position on the library board that had not been filled. Mr. Eckhart had indicated an interest in continuing to serve on the library board, and so with this appointment, he will go from having been a city council representative to being a citizen representative on that board.
Motion to approve Chris Eckhart to the Alva Library Board of Directors.
I second that.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Dowling to appoint Chris Eckhart to the Alva Library Board of Directors. Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Is there any further discussion? Sorry.
Isn't his sister, isn't she a full-time employee at the library?
She is. He's no longer on the council, and they don't have, that board does not have hiring or firing authority.
They don't have any influence over their positions, I guess, or?
I don't believe so.
I can't, if they do, I'd like to get it at the ARC.
Honestly,
I'm just saying.
the airport commission is the only one that
Yeah.
works with the city business manager to appoint
Mhm.
or to hire or fire.
Okay.
So there's no conflict, or is it, Rick?
No, there's no conflict.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Thanks for asking. Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
Item 17 is discussion and action on the appointment of Mr. Taylor Dowling to the Alva Library Board of Directors. They also have a city council position on that board. We talked briefly about your appointment to that, and with no objection, I do recommend the council appoint Mr. Dowling to the library board.
Motion to approve Mr. Dowling to the Library Board of Directors.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mr. Stelling to appoint Taylor Dowling to the Alva Library Board of Directors. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Item 18 is discussion and action to enter into executive session pursuant to 25 OS 307B2 to discuss contract negotiations with IAFF Local 3782, Alva, Oklahoma. That is the firefighters. I entertain a motion.
I make a motion to enter into executive session as stated in section, number 8.
Second.
Have a motion by Mrs. Hamilton, a second by Mr. Sherman to enter into executive session. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Dowling.
Yes.
On contract negotiations with IAFF Local 3782, Alva, Oklahoma.
I would like to motion to authorize the city manager and the council representatives to continue negotiation as discussed in the executive session.
Second.
I have a motion from Mrs. Hamilton and a second by Mr. Stelling to authorize the business manager and council representatives to continue negotiations with the IAFF as discussed in executive session. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Winters,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
All right. Item 21 is new business, and I don't think we have any business that meets the qualifications for that agenda item. Item 22, remarks and inquiries by council members. Item 23 is adjourned. So, we are adjourned from the city council meeting, and we will open the call to order the regular meeting of the Alva Utility Authority.
Winters,
Here.
Dowling,
Call the roll.
Sherman,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Bowman,
Here.
Stelling,
Here.
Hamilton,
Here.
Brooks.
Here.
Item 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AUA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on March 15th, 2021. And item B, approval of claims in the amount of $90,201.45 and payroll expenses of $55,522.45. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Sherman and a second by Mrs. Hamilton to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Sherman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Winters.
Yes.
All right. There being no further business to discuss, the utility authority meeting is adjourned. And we will call to order the regular Alva Economic Development Authority meeting. Shelley, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Brooks,
Here.
Hamilton,
Here.
Stelling,
Here.
Bowman,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Dowling,
Here.
Winters.
Here.
Item 3 is discussion and action on the consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AEDA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on March 15th, 2021. And item B, approval of claims in the amount of $17,201.97 and payroll expenses of $15,005.80. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Winters and a second by Mr. Sherman to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Winters,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Dowling,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Stelling,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Bowman.
Yes.
All right. We are adjourned. Well.